all of a sudden straight away you have the history. That person's never wrong. That person's wrong for, 20 times and had these different things and summarizing it, right? We're using the power of the AI in a different way, but in the sense that we're still using the human element to be able to understand actually how should we deal with the 21st call, right? Ultimately. And so I think with everything, I think with agents themselves, you have to be quite clear with if you go down a road with autonomy, you're very clear with what they're executing on, what their information has been given, how they're carrying the same persona that you'd want to carry through, this human-led process. And I think it's quite an interesting one where I think agents themselves will form a different paradigm. I actually talked about this in 2023, where I showed two agents talking to each other, and now agent-agent communications are becoming more known as well recently. So I think it could be easily that in the future that we as customers have our own agents, right? Talking because we can't be going through that process of 45 minutes on a chat bot trying to solve our problem. So again, agent to agent communication, agent to people communication, all sorts of different things probably exist. And I think it's really being careful with the sensitivity of the information, the data, the your customer, the paradigm in which you're operating, which the agents are operating in, the guardrails. I think this is all really, really important. And to think about how you do, I would say testing. This is the part where ultimately, I would say, I'm not saying it's similar, but you're almost thinking about and the kind of the analogy where you go through in the kind of the pharma world where you're actually testing it live on people, right? You almost like bringing hubs to be able to do that, and it's kind of got to that because you're then thinking about the experience. And I did talk about this previously in the sense that you're kind of having to R&D everything, right? Because you don't actually know what that experience should look like until you really R&D it a little bit and understand the new journey and how that's going to work. The issue is the money is with complete autonomy, but there is some middle ground in trying to understand that. And how you get to that could be autonomy as well, but you need to have that change. So again, ultimately everyone is a customer somewhere. They feel that they're, feeling good or better out of that any engagement.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And if we dig a little bit deeper into the kind of autonomous agent side of things, where should we be looking at autonomous agents as replacing existing workflows that everyone already has? And where should we be looking at them as creating maybe entirely new functions within customer experience?
So going back to my earlier point, for the quick wins, you should look at current workflow. I
Mm.
would never really look at current workflow as the answer for autonomous agents because you can't measure an agent that can do 1,000 things more than someone else, right? You can't, this is different, it's a different parameter. So in reality, what you're thinking about is when we go back to information, is what information and what should it be, right? So ultimately, I think we're in this kind of paradigm where workflows will get redone. And I think that is another process in trying to work out what should that workflow be. Again, with the data corpi that exists in terms of the design of that to bring the best experience, to bring the best intelligence, to bring the best predictive intelligence, right? Bring on-spot intelligence. And when we think about, and we might be talking about this a little bit later, but when we talk about the next stage, which will be more kind of the avatar components or physical AI, this becomes hugely important because at the moment we're still talking about agents looking like bots in our chatbots or something like, resembling what we're used to in some respects in terms of output. It's, ChatGPT writing something back or whatever it might be. And so that UX, UI will completely flip soon. And so when that flips, you need to have the understanding of what the processes drive the next change that's going to come.
Totally. Well, let's talk about the flip. So I know that you've got firsthand experience with these evolving AI avatars that you've mentioned. So how far away are we from that flip happening? How far away are we from seeing avatar-led experiences in hospitality and maybe in other sectors, going mainstream?
Yeah, so I guess on the technology, because I've seen it firsthand, it's not far away because if you think about two things, the two things are in terms of we talk about AI voice, like which is quite prevalent in terms of responding, in terms of, it being able to respond with voice with AI. But now it's about interaction, right? So interactive avatars will be about interaction. So it'll be conversion of voice to LLM reasoning, which will then come back as a response. And the response is like what ChatGPT would say, or whatever your tools are would say, but with an avatar experience. So when we look at avatars now, they're obviously quite human-like. So they bridge the gap, I think, a little bit more in terms of that human persona type experience. Because I even say it sometimes in the sense that I don't say it's it, in the sense that, it's not a person, but it looks like us, right? And it starts talking like us. And so we start building those bridges. And so I think that's the interesting component about what I've said earlier around building the right workflows, intelligence, the data core pie, the unstructured and structured data, your brand presence and everything, which then is going to lead to the secondary now things in which where we will consume AI in a different way in the future.